Hey, do you find yourself running out of time during the workday to get those most important projects done? Well, stick around and I'll tell you about one technique that's helped me in a very huge way. Welcome to Beyond the Rut, the podcast that shares encouraging stories and practical tools to help pull you out of your rut into a life worth living. So if you're looking to create a life worth living in your faith, family, and career, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Jerry Dugan, and in this episode, I'm going to talk about one technique that has helped me gain focus and get things done. And I'll tell you, that's what we're going to talk about. So grab a notebook, grab a pen, sit back, relax, because here we go. All right. Hey, thanks. I'm glad you're still here. And by the way, stick around to the end of this episode, especially if you are a leader of people. So you have direct reports reporting to you. I've got some cool tools to share with you. But right now I want to focus on this one technique that has really helped me get things done over the past years, at least the last year and a half, maybe more. In using this technique, I guess a little bit more background. So I'm kind of all over the place. And you can tell just by the way I'm talking with you right now, I'm everywhere. One moment I'm thinking about, writing a book. And in the same hour, I'll be thinking about, hey, what new videos are trending on YouTube right now? And then on my way to open up a tab on YouTube, I'll find the other 4 tabs of YouTube I already had open, but I already forgot about watching those videos. And then I'll also find a tab or 2 on my browser for a project or maybe an article I was going to read for an upcoming episode. And then to my right will be a book that I meant to read for a guest I'm about to interview for this podcast. You name it. I got a lot of unfinished things all around me all the time, but somehow I get things done. It's we call it the ongoing miracle with Jerry here. I even published a book in 2023, and that's pretty darn amazing for a guy who's got himself all over the place. And I just found this one technique to be very helpful to get focus and to work with clarity. And you may have heard of it. It's called the Pomodoro Technique. And maybe you haven't heard of it. Maybe you've heard of it in a kitchen setting. Kitchen? What is that? Anyway, kitchen setting. It's named after this timer, that tomato-shaped timer that you buy for the kitchen. And I think it goes up to 25 minutes, somewhere in there. But for me, I can maintain my focus for about 20 to 25 minutes. And after that, though, we're kind of like, let's see where the ADHD takes him. And even during that time, it's a challenge. So what is the Pomodoro Technique? Now, before I even do that technique, I have to jot down all the things I'm thinking of that need to get done, and it looks overwhelming. But then when I look at that list, I'm able to prioritize and say, okay, I wrote down a list of 20 things. I clearly don't have enough time in the day to knock out all 20 things. So then I'll use a little bit of a Franklin Covey technique to organize them into what's the most important, what is the least important, and I'll even sort them by what are the things that I absolutely have to get done myself, what are the things I still have to do, but I can defer to a later time in the week, and then what are the things I can defer to somebody else? Maybe I could delegate it to, I don't have a virtual assistant, but if I had one, what are the things I could delegate to them? Maybe there's some things that I can delegate to a service I already pay for. Like I use CapShow to help create show notes from this audio. And not just that, blog posts, social media posts, and so on. So that's something I've delegated to a tool. An AI in a sense, and then I go back in and I'm able to, update and edit things. So, what are the things you can delegate? What are the things you really don't have to do? Like if it didn't get done, nobody got hurt, nobody got mad, your business was fine, your job was fine, it would just kind of go away. And believe it or not, there are things on your to-do list that you could really just get rid of, and nobody would know, nobody would remember. And if it comes up 4 years from now, it's like everybody did fine without it. Those are kind of the nice to have kind of things. They're not really going to move the needle forward for you. They're not really urgent. So it's kind of like, it's not important. It's not urgent. I probably could get away with not doing it at all. You got those things on your list. So just delete those. Like cross it off. Say, I don't even have to worry about it being done. It just didn't have to be on the list in the first place. So those are kind of the 3 or 4 buckets. Things I got to get done today. Things I have to get done, but it could wait. And then I'll block time for that, by the way. The other thing is, what are things that have to get done, but somebody else can do them, either for a fee or because it's their actual job to do it? And what are the things I don't have to do at all? So I guess that's kind of like the bonus tip here, right? Because before we even get into Pomodoro Technique, I just told you how to eliminate a bunch of stuff or delay the most important things that, or not most important things, the important things that don't have to be done today. So what you should be left with is a list of things that have to be done today. And that's whether or not it's by you or somebody else, but we're just going to stick with the part that has to be done by you. And you've determined that of that list that has to be done by you ASAP or today, you could probably knock that out in a day. So then from there, rank it. What's the most difficult challenge? If we're going to follow Brian Tracy's advice from a book called Eat That Frog, what's the nastiest, hairiest thing you got to tackle? Maybe it'll take an hour. Maybe it'll take 30 minutes if you could just focus. But what's that ugly, hairy, audacious thing that you need to work on? For me, at a time, it was writing Beyond the Rut, the book. I needed to dedicate 1 hour a day for about a month or two. I forget which. I think it was like a month and a half. We'll split the difference, right? Yeah, go with me on that. But I needed to spend at least an hour writing and contributing to my book. Now, a year and some change later, I've got to dedicate at least an hour to connecting with potential clients. And this is asking for a call. It's not just clients, but reconnecting with people in my network because I may be able to help them and they actually may be able to help me. But I wouldn't know if I don't talk to them at all. And if our only interactions were just liking each other's posts on social media. So whatever it is, you've got something that is big, hairy, audacious. It's probably the ugly frog that you got to kind of eat in a sense. And you want to tackle that first. But how do you maintain focus to get that done? Now we can talk about the Pomodoro Technique. So up to this point, you've prioritized everything you had on your list. You identified the things that absolutely only you could do and they had to be done today. And then from that list, which is a lot shorter, you decided this is the first thing I need to tackle. But man, where do I find the motivation for that? Pomodoro Technique is simply this. You get a timer. I use one on YouTube, but I also fire one up on my phone. I just say, hey, Siri, set timer for 25 minutes. Oh, she's doing it right now. Dang it. Anyway, yeah, I just ask for a timer. I tell it to be for 25 minutes. I'll play some white noise or some lo-fi music in the background just to help keep me focused. I close out almost every window I can. And then all I have in front of me on my computer is that one task I'm going to work on. Maybe it's not computer-based. I'll have all the materials I need to work on that one project. Maybe it's a series of phone calls. I have nothing but that phone list and maybe a notebook to take notes in front of me. So I set the stage so that I am focusing on one thing and one thing alone. My email is closed. My phone is on Do Not Disturb, which bothers my wife, but she understands why, because I'll either be presenting or in a meeting. And I will get distracted easily. So I have my phone notifications off. I have on my smartphone, by the way, I have just about every phone notification or app notification turned off. So I don't see that anxiety creating red number that has a number that tells you how many unread text messages or emails you have or missed calls. I don't see any of that because I have my notifications turned off. Not many banners pop up either because I am structuring my time. I'm trying to take control of my schedule to get things done. And this is especially important when I'm using the Pomodoro Technique to get some project work done, to get some deep work done. So I've got this timer. It's set for 25 minutes. And that is the thing I'm focused on for 25 minutes. Now, internally, I'm already starting to combust at about 20 minutes. It's a miracle I got that far in the first place. But I'll also catch myself getting ready to open up another browser to surf something, or I get an idea. And so with this 25-minute timer, every time my mind goes off to a tangent and it's like, oh, what about that book? Rather than hunt the book down and start flipping through it, I have a notebook next to me, a little notepad, and I'll just jot down that random thought on that notepad, and I'll stop that, put the pen back down, and I'll get back on task. So I do feed the squirrel monster in a way, like my spirit animal is Doug from the movie Up. So it's like I'll be talking to you, just like right now, and then I'm like, ooh, squirrel. that notepad helps me feed that dog, Doug, inside me. So I've jotted down, I had this idea, and I just get right back on task. And I find myself doing my marketing campaigns, prospecting, proposal writing, any type of project is actually getting done and having forward progress, because for 25 minutes, that's all I'm working on. And I've taken into account that I'm easily distracted, and I put things into place to help mitigate that. So I hope that's something that could work for you. But what happens at the end of the 25 minutes? Well, the timer goes off. I turn off the timer and I set one for 5 minutes. Then I get up and I just walk around. Usually I go to the other side of the apartment and I bug my wife because I've missed her during the 25 minutes. Besides, she's hogging all the cats, and I got to play with those cats, and the dog, he's always starved for attention, so I'll give him some pets. I might step outside on the balcony or step outside the front door just randomly and take a short little 2 or 3 minute walk. Or if it's still morning time and I've only had 1 cup of coffee, I'll get the second cup of coffee. But if I've already had 2 cups, then I just stare at the fridge, contemplating water and staying hydrated. But whatever it is, I get up, I move about, I shake my legs out, talk to my wife, and I just get off my technology. Now, that 5 minute break is over. I get right back to it. I reset my timer for 25 minutes. I put my lo-fi music on or my background noise. One of the things I've been listening to lately, this is kind of weird, and hopefully you don't judge me for this, but on YouTube, you can Google or search like spaceship cockpit chatter, like radio chatter. And I've been listening to that. It's just people on radio sounding communication, talking to each other. And there's something soothing of having the beep in the background, some chatter, and that kind of thing. I don't really pay attention to the conversation, but it's there. And it makes me feel like I've got somebody in the room where I'm listening to a conversation in the background, and I just get to work. So round 2 of the Pomodoro Technique, it's another 25 minutes. And if I finish the first task from the first set of 25 minutes, then I just move on to the second task on my list. And, I've got my checklist, so I check the first thing off and I'm like, oh, yay, I'm making progress. And then I move on. Now, if I'm not done with the first task, I got a choice. I can either put that first task off till later, or I can continue with it with round 2. And so it just depends on priority. Like if there's a time crunch on something, I'll shift to that for the next 25 minutes. And then I'll come back to the first project after that. But if that first project truly is selected correctly, that is the thing with the time crunch and needs to be done the first thing. So I just get right back to it. But I'm back to it. I'm focused. I haven't checked my email. I haven't checked my phone messages. I want to get a good hour in before I do any of that. So round 2 goes by, those 25 minutes are up. I take another 5 minute break. I may decide for round 3, it's just returning calls and checking my email and responding to direct messages on social media. And I'm primarily on LinkedIn and Facebook right now at the time I'm recording this. So I'm really just focused on those 2 platforms. So that's focus time, communication specific to returning calls to clients, prospects, new connections, old connections, whatever it is. The next round of 25 minutes might be I've got to be on a call where I'm networking with other people, or I'm, whatever it is. But that's a time block as well. So 5 minutes break every time a 25 minute block is done. After 2 hours of this, take a longer break, 15 minutes. Treat yourself to something cold to drink. I don't know. If you work for yourself, that's great. Crack open a cold one. Actually, you probably don't want to do that. Anyway, take a break, walk around, go for a longer walk. I work from home, so I'll go and I'll check my mail. Even if we don't have any mail, I don't care. It's just to get out of the home, get some sunlight, and just absorb those rays in and go check my mailbox, which most likely has a bunch of junk mail in it, but that's fine. It's fine. And I'll just roll with that. And so that's the long break. I come back, and we get right back to it. And I'll probably fit in another 2 rounds of this Pomodoro technique before lunch. I do have my lunch blocked because I used to not take lunch when I had my corporate life. So in my last 2 jobs, I really didn't block time for lunch. But my boss at a place I worked at, Karen Hale at Christus Health, I saw her calendar once and she had healthy lunch blocked out every single work day. And I was like, wow, you got to remind yourself to have lunch. And she looked at me like, politely, but also very seriously. And she's like, yes, I do. And I'm like, oh, that's so funny. And she said, because if I don't do that, I'll just go on to the next thing or talk to the next person or, reply to Jerry when he reaches out to me. And I'm like, oh, hey, it's your lunch hour. I got to go. I got a thing. And then I let my boss go. So I found out recently in 2023, I should do the same thing. And ever since I did that, at just an hour, I get off my computer, I get off my phone as best I can, grab a book, I eat lunch, talk to my wife. I might watch a little bit of TV and have some veg out time, or I might go for a walk. It depends on how hyped up I am and if it's cold outside or not, which in Texas is rare, so it's usually too hot to go outside. I'll just melt. But I take that break for an hour, and that recharges me. And then in the afternoon, it's right back to the Pomodoro Technique, and I get stuff done. Sometimes on an hour call, networking with others or learning from somebody, or I'm doing a 45-minute strategy call with somebody for my BTR business, helping leaders boost their workplace culture. Whatever it is, though, as best I can, especially when I'm doing project work, we'll use this Pomodoro Technique. And the end result has been great for me because, again, I get easily distracted. And if I make a conscious effort for 25 minutes to do just one thing as best as possible, and I have that notepad there with a pen just for the little squirrels that pop in front of my view, I am much more productive during the week than anything else. And when I don't do it, it's a miracle that the lights are still on here. And so that's the Pomodoro Technique. I did not invent it. A guy named Pomodoro did not invent it. I forget the name off the top of my head. I did mention him in my book, though, to give him credit, because I talk about it in my book, Beyond the Rut. And so I hope this is something that'll be helpful for you. If you find yourself having a hard time staying on task with projects, it's okay to turn off notifications. And you may have a boss who was on you all the time about, you got to have your phone ready. You got to have it on at all times. And I know people in the sales industry are so scared that if they miss a phone call from a client, that's it. They missed a sale. Could that happen? Yeah, it could. Now, if somebody's trust in you is so low and their respect for you is so low that missing their call by 10, 15 minutes is enough to kill the relationship, that's a whole different story and probably a whole different episode. And my friend Donald C. Kelly, he might agree with me. He might not. I need to reach out to him, see what his opinion is on that. You do want to be responsive to your clients. If that's an internal client or an external client, yes, you want to be available to them. But you also want to be available to them in a way that has boundaries for you, so you are getting the important deep dive work done while also taking care of their needs. So that's something that I don't have the answer on this particular episode for you. It's a little bit different for everybody. For every business, it's slightly different. But if you're doing project work and you want to get it done and you're easily distracted, whether by clients or your own fruition or volition, then the Pomodoro Technique is something worth considering. You can get one of those tomato-shaped timers if you want. I don't have one because the bell will just scare me to death. I just use my phone, and I use some tracks on YouTube. And YouTube has a lot of free ones, by the way. You just type in Pomodoro, Pomodoro. That was kind of cool to say. Anyway, Pomodoro timer with or without music, and they have 25-minute timers on like a 4-hour loop kind of thing. So it'll do like 25. It'll give you a beat for 5 minutes. It turns out I just tune that out anyway as background noise, so I use my phone as a very strong reminder. Now, I promised you, if you stuck around, I have a really cool announcement for you. And that is, so on my business, BTR Impact, I am helping leaders boost their workplace culture so that they build this legacy of servant leadership. Why? Well, the end result is your employees will love working with you because they feel like they're growing at a professional level. They also find fulfillment in their work because they're working with you and you're supportive of them and they feel cared for. Like if I have a bad day, my leader is going to make sure I can take care of myself or help me out in some way, shape, or form within reason. So I'm a big fan of servant leadership. And over the last year, I created a servant leadership framework I call TENT, T-E-N-T. And the fastest way to set up your tent is you stake out the corners first. All this to say, on April 1st and 2nd, 2024, I am hosting a 2-day workshop. It's an intensive where I'm not only going to teach the concepts from my tent framework, I'm not only going to share some of the modules from the e-course I'm pulling together. A lot of that 2-day session is going to be a group think tank. So when we talk about delegation, we're not just going to present on delegation, let you take some notes and say, oh, well, that's really cool. We're going to spend some time digging deep on what are the things you can delegate. Why are you not wanting to delegate? What are those roadblocks you're facing? What are the things you have to gain if you delegate well? What would it take to delegate well? Who do you want to delegate to? All those things. The time spent on delegation alone, we're going to do a deep dive into that. When we talk about giving feedback, we're going to have some real world examples for you when you're done with that session. When it comes to assessing the vibe on your team, like what's working well, what's not, what are they mad about, what's disengaging them, how do we fix this? We're going to not just walk through the communication model. You're going to have a plan on who you're going to talk to first, when you're going to talk to that person, and then we'll come back together because there are a bunch of bonuses for this thing. So it's 2 days. We're going to cover some key proven practices based on the tent framework, based on leadership, research, and so on, to help you have the tools to re-engage the disengaged people on your team. Because if you have high levels of employee engagement where they feel cared for, they love where they work, they love the work they're doing, they're going to perform a lot better. They're going to make your customers happier, your patients safer, and then as a result, your profitability is going to be higher. So this hits the bottom line. This investment, this workshop is $1,997 base price. But if you're listening to this on time, like the week I roll out this episode, and you enroll by February 29th, 2024, you can get over 50% off with the QR code TENTFEB24. And I'll have that in the show notes for this episode. So that's $1,000 off. Now, if you missed that, don't worry. I have another promo code, and I'll share that on my social media. Just reach out to me by email even, jerrydugan@btrimpact.com, or the show's email, info@beyondtherut.com. But yeah, we'll have that for you. So it's 2 days. Going to be teaching some stuff, but we're also going to use a lot of time doing some deep dive think tank work. So you're going to come out of there with a plan of action. You're going to know, I'm going to talk to these people about these things on this timeline. And by the end of those conversations, I will have an understanding of what's going on my team. And here's the cool thing. Here's bonus number 1. If you go to this workshop, only if you go to this workshop, bonus number 1 is you get a one-on-one consultation with me after you've done that legwork after the session. So it's a 2-day event. You have some homework, and you get a free consultation with me because now we're going to take all that data you collected, and you're going to develop a true action plan for the next 90 days. That's bonus number 1. What would that normally cost you? Like $500, right? If you had a consultation with somebody, a 1-hour coaching is like $500. Well, that's included with this 2-day event at $1,997. Now, here's the cool thing. Bonus number 2. You'll have a 1-year access to the e-course of, I call it the Engagement Accelerator. It's 12 lessons over 22 videos that will go on a deeper dive with each of the content pieces that we cover in the 2-day workshop. Also, some additional content we did not get to cover in the workshop. So you get some bonus content there. But here's also another bonus that comes with that e-course. The people who have access to that e-course also have access to 3 monthly Q&A sessions, webinars. So each month I'll have a webinar at the end of the workday so people get on there and pay attention. You'll have submitted your email questions to me ahead of time, and then I'll answer those on a webinar. You get to watch that or live or on the replay. If you're live, you get to like interact and all that good stuff. So those are 3 bonuses right there on top of this 2-day intensive where you're going to learn some skills, but you're also going to really apply it to real world application. Now, why is this beneficial to you? And this $1,997 tag seems like it's too much, but if you think about the cost of replacing one of your employees, the average salary in the United States is $59,000 a year. It's going to cost you up to 3 times that person's salary to replace that person when they leave. And so if you're dealing with turnover in your department right now or turnover in your organization, That's a big thing to deal with. You're losing $177,000 a year because you got to replace the person. You got to spend money to recruit the person. You're going to take time away from work to interview that person. You're going to take time away from work to train that person. You're going to have to pull other people away from their work to train, interview, and so on. But also, you're suffering lost productivity because you have that vacancy. All that adds up to about $177,000 per person. So if you lost more than one person, that's going to hit you below the belt pretty badly, or it's going to hit the bottom line, at least in your organization. So if you could apply these concepts and save just one person from quitting prematurely from your organization, that's going to save you about $177,000. And we're not even talking about the boost to productivity, profitability, revenue, all those things. So $1,997 is a small price to pay or small investment to make to recoup that kind of revenue for your business, would you say? So right now, 10th Feb 24 is the promo code if you get in there early enough. If you missed that, reach out to me. I've got another promo code I can offer you for a limited time. And if you're listening to this way after April, don't worry, because there will be more. I'm already looking at doing another one in June, another one in, I believe, August or September. So if all goes well, we're going to see like 4 of these a year in the Dallas area. Oh, by the way, this is in person in the DFW area. I already got the site picked out. So if you need to travel in, just let me know. And I got a link that has some of the hotels in the nearby area. And there's only 18 slots available to this thing. It's a small group. And the reason why I want that is because, again, deep dive work. If I had a crowd of 100 people or 200 people or even 50 people, that gets diluted and you don't really get to have the attention you need with the facilitator, me. You don't have enough time to really engage with the people around you, because my time in managing a big group would be managing the overall program. Whereas when you keep it small, I'm really aiming for 12 people. And I could take up to 18. I'm aiming for 12, because at 12 people, it's going to be very intimate. We're going to be able to do breakout sessions that are deep dives. You're going to be able to connect with people who are probably colleagues in your industry or just great people to network with. So it's worth it. So it's called the Stake Your Leadership Tent 2-day workshop. I'm also referring to it as the Engagement Accelerator workshop. But it's really based off of Stake Your Leadership Tent, my keynote presentation. So if that interests you, check out the show notes, beyondtherut.com/407. There you'll have more information about the Pomodoro Technique, but also a link to information about what we're talking about right here. So if you're interested in that 2-day workshop in the DFW area in April of 2024, and $1,997 is a great investment for you because you'll save at least one employee, maybe 2 or 5. And then the sweet deal with the discount promo codes I'm offering, then again, beyondtherut.com/407. You'll find that information there. If you want to just reach out to me directly, info@beyondtherut.com is a great place to start, especially if it's podcast related. And then I'll redirect you from there for us to have that conversation. So there you have it. I'm glad you joined me for this episode. And again, the show notes. I really want you to get to the show notes, beyondtherut.com/407. Go check those out. And, I'm glad you joined me for this episode. I look forward to joining you again on the next one. But until then, go live life beyond the rut. Take care.